Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and this is To Back or Not To Back. We're going to be covering a variety of crowdfunding campaigns, as we typically do over here on the channel. Subscribe if you haven't, like, share, all those usual things that I usually don't say in videos. Don't know why I'm doing it now, but I am doing it. We have another short week for you. We have 8 campaigns to cover, and that's including 2 in the board game adjacent category. We're going to go ahead and dive straight in, but as usual, we're going to start with Cult of the Now. Crowdfunding has a lot of incredible games that are very compelling for a variety of reasons, but they usually are more expensive. You get them a long time from now, and you get them with less information than you do on currently available games. To that end, we have Cult of the Now, where we can go ahead and take a look at a currently available game, and for $40, which is a bargain price, you can get Horseless Carriage over on Game Nerds for $40 for a Splotter game that at one point was $100+ to get your hands on. I think they actually had a deal of the day or whatnot, where it was even cheaper, it's like $30. But for $40, this is an absolute steal if you are someone who is interested in picking up and expanding your Splotter catalog. I have to imagine they overstocked on this, and then it just didn't hit that level of popularity that other Splotter titles have. It is incredibly well rated though, so if you are a Splotter fan, this is an opportunity to pick this up at a great price point for a very expensive game that you can get in a few days. And that's why you have Cult of the Now over here. From there, we're going to go ahead and dive into crowdfunding, although we are starting with Board Game Adjacent. Like I said, we have 2 campaigns to cover this week. Starting off, we have Stagetop 2 3D printed board game tables. 3D printed, well, tables. We have some tables to get into. 1,500 backers, $117,000 raised. This is the second campaign from them, actually third campaign technically, but this is Stagetop 2, and this is a 3D printed board game table, giving you options for actual board game tables, ones that clip onto coffee tables, bed tables, deluxeified centerpiece tables. There's a variety of things they have over here on the campaign, all of which you are just buying the STL files in order to go ahead and print them yourself. So they have a whole bunch of information on the campaign. We won't be doing a deep dive into it, but they have a variety of board game tables. They do talk about some degrees of how much filament is required for certain things. Like they do have this incredibly extravagant, gigantic ship table over here, this centerpiece of a table, that they do say took like 1,000 hours of printing and 25 rolls of filament, which depending on your cost at the bargain basement prices, that's like $250, all the way up to potentially more likely around $500 to $600 worth of filament, depending on where you get your filament, just to go ahead and print that table. That said, that is their extreme centerpiece table. This is not your typical. I don't know what their filament requirements are for something like this Marvel United spinner over here, or perhaps a table for your bedroom or whatnot, for in bed, playing games solo or whatnot. So there's a variety of different options out here from the coffee tables that will take a IKEA lac table, the IKEA lac table, or other tables not sponsored by IKEA, and then convert it into a board game table with that 3D printer aspect. So you can get a bunch of options for the files over here. We have $48 for the upgrade if you have the original campaign stuff. We have $68 for the core, and then the all-in for $129, and then commercial fees for $269 if you are printing to sell them instead. And that's basically what we have over here, which I will say as somebody who owns a 3D printer, I'm kind of tempted, specifically that table that you print in bed or whatnot. Like, I have a board game table. I'm fortunately in the position to have a full board game table, so I don't need a lot of their options, but I am compelled by some of the files they have, including that Marvel United spinner. Some of those things definitely look interesting, but that is going to be Stagetop 2 3D printed board game tables. Then we have the Monarch board game table. Speaking of tables I have the Monarch board game table from Dragons and Geeks. Although I will say I have their first edition from their first crowdfunding campaign. It does look like they have made some improvements, if I'm not mistaken, to the table, but I overall enjoy mine. I still use it. It is my go-to dining room table and whatnot right now, and I think I have a game set up underneath it right now, actually, as we speak. But basically, this is the Monarch board game table from Dragons and Geeks. This is their second crowdfunding campaign. We have 118 backers, $126,000 raised, and 26 days to go in case you are interested in this. It's a fairly straightforward table, reasonably priced. The original campaign was even better priced, but their prices have gone up. They've adjusted prices based on their knowledge or whatnot, as well as additional features. They made some changes, they've offered more accessories, things like that. But overall, I'm still enjoying my Monarch game table from Dragons and Geeks. I'm still enjoying it. I still get a lot of use out of it, both for gaming as well as for dining, and I definitely can recommend it pretty decently. I think it's a very, very good table overall as far as things go, although again, I have the first edition, not the second edition. Not going to heavily go through the table as far as what the details or aspects and all that. You can scroll through it, you can see the accessories, the features, if it's for you or not, but if you want my own 2 cents, I definitely do enjoy the Monarch game table that I currently have. Prices are going to range for £1,245 for the Guardian table, then you have £1,600 for the Monarch board game table. I believe I have the Monarch. I have whatever they had in the first campaign, which I think is the Monarch. And again, like, the price has gone up since then, but that is going to be your Monarch board game table from Dragons and Geeks. And with that, we're going to go ahead and dive into the 6 campaigns we have today. Like I said, it is a lighter week. We have Finish Line and Merlin Deluxe Big Box over here, 111 backers, 7 days to go, $11,000 raised. This is another Queen Games campaign. This is from Mowgli Distribution, which is associated with Queen Games, or the distribution warehouse for them and whatnot. But we have a bunch of Queen Game campaigns, Queen Game games to get in this campaign. Generally, they have a paired up big box and smaller box. They have Finish Line, and then they have a bunch of big boxes paired up with that. So I'm not going to go into all the individual campaigns over here because, again, they just have a lot of games to go into. But as usual, this is an opportunity to go ahead and get some of their games. Whether Finish Line over here, this from Dan Glim, design of Dungeon Quest, a racing horse game over here. Whether it's the Merlin big box for €65, which is giving you a Stefan Feld point salady game taking place in the universe of Merlin, with a ton of expansions and ways to, a ton of ways to play the game. We have Merlin and Finish Line for €70. That's going to be combining those two to give you a great price on those, comparatively speaking. We have Fresco and Finish Line. Fresco is going to be a game about painting the frescoes, the ceilings of the cathedrals over there. We have Metro and Finish Line, which Metro, I don't think I've ever actually played Metro, but if I'm not mistaken, it's a bit of a tile laying game as you connect various routes. If I'm not mistaken, I might be mistaken. And then we have a bunch of getting all those together for €170 to go ahead and get all 3 of those together in one option. Which, considering the price points are coming around 75, 70, and all that, that looks like, let's say, a rough price point of €65 times 3. It does seem to be a pretty decent price point, saving another $5, $10 off each big box if you go ahead and get all of that. And then we have over here, we have more combinations and more options, but that's the main things you're getting over here as far as the campaign goes. As far as Show You Back, Show You Not, will it hold its value? Again, Queen Games are always a little hard to cover when they do these giant roundup campaigns with a whole bunch of options. These are generally decent prices on their big boxes. Their big boxes do a various job as far as how well they do in the secondhand market. Merlin, I think, generally does do the best, but they honestly, they do a decent job holding the value of their big boxes overall. They don't have a ton of demand, but they put out these campaigns, they give it to you at a good price point. I don't think it's a great price point or a terrible price point. If you want these big boxes, this could be a good opportunity to go ahead and get your hands on them. Then we have Malediction. Malediction over on GameFound, the miniatures card game, coming to you from Loot Studios, who, speaking of 3D printing, they are famous for, well, a lot of 3D printed miniatures. If you go ahead and access Loot Studios online, they do a ton of 3D printing options. We have 1,400 backers over here, $334,000 raised, and 7 days to go. And Malediction is their diving into the miniatures slash TCG slash board game world all together at the same time, because Malediction is a game which you're going to be building your factions, building your decks, and then printing your miniatures. You don't have to print miniatures, you have standees in the core boxes you get, but if you do want to print your miniatures, the games come with STLs that you can go ahead and print your own armies for it. So it's trying to combine a tabletop miniatures game with a collectible card game with kind of board game adjacent as far as how it goes, and giving it to you combined with 3D printing to take advantage of the greater access that people have to 3D printing, whether their own or friends or optionally 3D printed services, although again, you don't need a 3D printer to play this game. The general idea is this game where you're going to have a deck, you have pre-constructed decks so you can build or tweak or adjust your own, and you're going to be engaging on the battlefield as you try to gain glory in the game. You're trying to go for a variable number of glory, which is generally going to be gotten through taking control of these husks and gaining relics, as well as taking out your opponents, gaining glory equal to the cost of their units. Meanwhile, every single round, you're balancing the recruitment of new units as you go ahead and gain more resources to do so every turn, while trying to take advantage of the battlefield and the various terrains that you will have on the battlefield in order to figure out how to combine your armies, the unique aspects of your army, the various terrain, and of course the relics that you're going for, all together to hopefully be able to get one over on your opponent. You can see a variety of gameplay and coverage on the game if you want to go ahead and see it in action, but that's basically the core premise of Malediction as far as it goes. As far as the rewards for the campaign, we have the Master Pledge of $178 for all 4 core boxes over here. This is giving you the 4 factions of the game over here. We have Secret Pledge for $55. We have the Dual Pledge for $89. So again, you can see the price per box starts dropping as you buy more boxes. And then you have the Legacy Pledge plus Limited Edition, which is all 4 boxes, plus some of these accessories over here. And then we have the Everlasting Pledge, giving you all the various accessories over here, plus the 4 core boxes for a decent price savings to go ahead and get all of it. That's basically what we have for Malediction over here. We have a few of the optional buys, or the things included in pledge levels are broken down over here as optional buys if you want those. And then of course we have the various stretch goals, which generally are going to be alternate STL sculpts included with the specific faction boxes that you're buying. So you have these alternate sculpts over here that will automatically be included when you go ahead and get those boxes. And then shipping over here is going to run you $10 for a single box, all the way up to $30 for Variety, the Everlasting Pledge over there. And that's what we got as far as Malediction, which brings us to the should you back it, should you not. Generally, it's hard to say on this one. This is a little bit out of, honestly, I could have put this in board game adjacent just as easily. The miniatures market and the, well, miniatures board game and trading card game and 3D printing your own stuff game is kind of a very different judgment call as far as should you back it, should you not. Doesn't make sense to get it now. What are the options later? It's hard to really pass judgment on this one because it's so different than the typical board game stuff that I cover on a general basis. Not to mention the aspect of, are you even allowed to transfer STLs? Like if you get the STL files to print your own, are you allowed to sell it and then give those STL files to somebody else? Because I wouldn't feel comfortable buying a digital thing and then just giving it away, but if I'm selling my copy, I probably would. But there's all these other questions to get into, so I don't really know as far as does it make sense to back it now, will it hold its value or not. It's leaning a little too far outside the typical things that I cover to be able to comfortably pass a informed guess. It would literally just be a guess, not really the informed part. So moving on from there, we have Teotihuacan, City of Gods Deluxe Master Set, second print from Board and Dice. 596 backers, 85,000 euro raised. This is basically the exact same thing as their last Kickstarter campaign for this, with caveats. And I'm starting with that because if you're someone who's interested in Teotihuacan, if you're a big fan of the game or any of that, then you might be wondering offhand, well, what's different than the last campaign they had? And the answer is the second edition is going to be different. So they do have the fixes for the few issues that there were in the first edition, but outside of that, it's basically the same thing. So if you got the last master set, you don't need this. If you are someone who loves Teotihuacan and missed out on the first set, then you may well want to go ahead and get your hands on this, because this is the second edition with, again, some improved fixes to various misprints or things like that. But outside of that, it's the same content, it's the same components you would have gotten in the last master set. As far as what is that, this is basically deluxeified Teotihuacan with a lot of options from the core deluxe master set on its own to the various upgrades and add-ons you can get as well. It's basically taking the Teotihuacan game, it's adding in all the expansions, it's upgrading everything, giving you deluxeified resources, it's giving you new art aspects to the original edition, it's giving you more unique player base, it's giving you organized player boards to organize your own area for the individual players, it's giving you player aids, upgrading the various goods to wood over here, giving the deluxe components with heat printed, new custom dice, bags for all of it, as well as the inserts, all of that in a single box. So again, it's Teotihuacan plus the inserts, plus the expansions, plus everything upgraded for you, and if you want to go ahead and get this deluxe master set option. But there are also add-ons on top of that. There's the 5th player expansion as an add-on, there's the double-sided playmats as an add-on, the set of players playing game mats as an add-on, as well as the folded space insert as an add-on, because as much as the insert over here is fine, there are better, if you want more streamlined setup and all that, the folded space insert might do a better job for that. And then there's additional resources, the promo pack, the new priests and sleeves, all of those available as add-ons to this. So again, as much as the deluxe set is the premium version of this, there's even more stuff you can go ahead and get your hands on if you are interested in all of that. And then of course there's going to be shipping. Shipping's down here, breaking down the cost, around 18 pounds over here, 18 euro to ship to the US over there, plus of course the euro region you're in, and that is what we have for Teotihuacan. Outside of that, what is Teotihuacan? Well, I guess I kind of skipped on that, but Teotihuacan is a game in the top 100. It is a Euro game from the T series of games, giving you a mid to heavyweight Euro experience as you basically try to move your workers around a rondel in order to take a variety of actions, primarily organized around building the central pyramid, but a whole lot of ways to score points as you do so. Every single action, everything you do chains into each other as far as trying to figure out your own little puzzle, as you upgrade things, as you get special technologies and abilities, trying to be mindful of where your opponents are on the board. You can check out a first impressions video I did for the game, or a lot of other content from a variety of people who have covered the game either in the original edition or in this new deluxe master set. As far as should you back or should you not, will it hold its value? Well, judging by the secondhand market on the first edition, I don't think it will. The original first edition, meaning this last master set that already, went out to people and has been selling already, if you look at the secondhand market, generally people are getting between what they paid for the game less shipping to possibly losing 10 to 15% on it as well. And that means you're automatically walking away losing the shipping price, but you might be losing even more than that depending on where in the sales rough thing you end up being. So it's one that I think you'll get most of your money back if you back this game and you find it's not for you, but most is not all. You'll almost certainly take a hit on it based on the secondhand sales we've seen currently for the first edition over here. So it will get most of its value, but not all of it back if you find that it's not a game for you. Moving on to Hearts of Iron, the board game from Steamforged Games. Hearts of Iron, the board game, 2,621 backers, 463,000 pounds raised, 10 days left to go. Hearts of Iron, the board game from Steamforged Games is based on the video game of the same name, and it's basically giving you a World War II rewriting of history as you take control of various factions, as well as alternate history aspects. So you can go ahead and be the, I don't know, you could be the Germany, but with a what are the various things? Germany with not the monarchy, maybe, I can't remember all the various things, but you can be communist England. Actually, I don't know if you can be communist England, but things like that. You basically choose a faction and then an alignment and then mix and match as you try to go ahead and figure out how you're going to be mindful of the board across the 6 rounds of play. You see, there are going to be 6 rounds of play in this game. It's going to be a 2 to 5 player game. The goal is to be a 3-hour experience, but they have it down as 3 to 4 hours, and I do find that's roughly accurate. Your first game can definitely lean close to that 4-hour range, especially if you're playing at a higher player count with new players, but I do think you can reasonably get this down to 3 hours after that, and it's basically a game in which you're going to be controlling, again, 2 to 5 players, taking control of various nations, and then moving around the board, trying to be mindful of the minor nations, basically the board itself and the various places you have to overtake, even though they aren't represented by another player, to the players themselves, who are the major nations, who are taking control of a variety of, again, taking control of various factions of the game, and then putting up obstacles to you as you fight over those 6 rounds. Across these 6 rounds, you're going to be choosing your engine card, which is going to give you a unique ability for the round, and then you're going to be choosing your technologies and your focuses, all these things that are determining your extra aspects before you go to the production of putting your units down onto the board in order to then plan secretly with hidden orders where your units are going to be going to, or alternatively bluffing your opponents where they're going to in order to take control of the minor nations and possibly major nations, all while trying to find the various ways to get points across those 6 rounds of play before adding up your points at the end of the game and seeing who won. There are 2 editions over here in this campaign. We have the standard edition for $65 and the special edition for $120, the main difference being the miniatures. There are some small differences, dual layer player boards, but the main difference between the standard and the special edition is going to be the miniatures you're going to get for the special edition versus the tokens and standees you'll be getting for the standard edition of the game instead. And this has the full breakdown, but you can see over here the differences and then things that are in both editions over here. Additionally, there's going to be a free gameplay expansion with the deluxe pledge over here if you want to get that unlocked during the campaign, with more content to be unlocked throughout the campaign. Outside of that, you can see some general representation of the miniatures, slightly different sculpts for the various factions, and these are the 5 factions in the core box, but there are additional factions as well available for expansions. I believe 3 different expansions, 3 different factions if I'm not mistaken, available as expansion factions in the game. We have the standard edition over here, showing you what you get over here, the standees, the tokens, all that, and then of course all the components that you see included in both editions, including those upgraded dice over there. Past that, over here, let's see what we got. We got the how to play, which I kind of just covered, and then we have, what else? The expansions. Let's go over here. Deluxe pledges over here. £99 over here for the deluxe core pledge. It's going to be the miniatures core box as well as the unlocked content throughout the campaign. For €53, you have the core pledge. It's going to be the standee option, so if you just want the basic game on its own, that's going to be that. We have the general's pledge over here, which is going to, just to be clear over here, this general's pledge gives you a good price for a lot of the content. It is the standard edition. Don't make the mistake of looking at the general's pledge and thinking you're getting a deluxe edition. You're getting the standard edition plus 2 gameplay expansions, Spain and Sweden, as well as of course the content unlocked in the campaign. And then we have the deluxe general's pledge over here for £201 over here, containing all the content for the live campaign, as well as the expansions, Spain and Sweden, so only 2 expansions I guess, as well as the Neo-Free Mats upgrade as well over here. So all those over there for the £201 on this campaign. And you can see over here we have the Spain edition, we have Sweden, Spain, we have Spain and Sweden in standard editions for €29 add-ons, £29 add-ons. We have Spain and Sweden in the special editions for £49 and £53 add-ons, and then of course added to the respective pledges on its own if you want to go and check out the bundled pricing over there. We have the deluxe first player marker for $7, and then we have this box giving you all the deluxe Neo-Free mats for €29. Outside of that, as far as, well, we have the expansion content. If you want to see the miniatures, again, more unique sculpts for these if you get the deluxe editions, the miniatures editions, the special editions over there. And that is basically Hearts of Iron, along with a full gameplay. If you want to see a full gameplay, you can check out Steamforged Games, a full playthrough of the campaign if you want to go, well, not campaign, the game. It's not a campaign game, of the game if you want to check that out. And then shipping down here will be, shipping, they have a stretch pay, and then they have United Kingdom and USA mainland, £18 to £30, depending on the pledge you got. So, should you back it, should you not, will hold its value, all of that. It's hard to say. Steamforged Games in general has had a mix as far as how their games have done after somebody backs the games. Generally, they do pretty well at first, but down the road, it kind of depends on the game. Some games have done a pretty decent job holding their value, looking at you, Monster Hunter World. Others have not done quite as good a job once they landed eventually. Again, initially, they almost always do, but once they land, some have not. Bard Song in particular is one that has very much dropped after it initially came out and people were seeking it. Over time, the secondhand market on it definitely did drop out. So it's always hard to say with their games because initially you're probably pretty safe. If you get the game and you sell it right away, there's a decent chance you're going to get most of your money back, if not all of it. But the more you wait, it kind of depends on the reception of the game, how well it's received, and all of that. And that is definitely more of a question mark. So I'd say there's a gamble over here. It definitely goes into the gamble camp. If you are interested in the game, you can probably wait, see for a second campaign, see for the second market if you want to just hedge your bets. Or alternatively, if you want to go ahead and get it, just make sure you try it out sooner rather than later, seeing if it's a game for you, so that if it's not a game for you, you can at least get most of your money back before, well, the market possibly settles on it. Moving on from there, we have Know Thyself, the game of self-discovery. 1,100 backers, $77,000 raised, 17 days to go. And again, I almost debated putting this in the board game adjacent camp because it's definitely a board game, make no mistake, but I think it's leaning more into the mass market appeal. This is almost more of a experiential, get to know each other kind of game for either two people on their own or possibly a gathering of friends. It gives you that sense of the journey of self-discovery. The basic premise is you're going to have some sort of prompt given, some sort of prompt to have a player ask a question about that they have to answer and engage with. So for example over here, do all people have equal value regardless of their actions? Or is a person's value based on their actions? It's an interesting question. If you want my own answer to that, I think there is an intrinsic value to somebody regardless of the actions that they take. But I do think the actions that people take in life does to a certain extent determine their value. This leads to a much longer conversation around the nature of free will and whether you believe in free will, because if it's all deterministic, it's a whole more complicated conversation. But as a general basis, I think most people, we do take into account the actions that they do when we're trying to weigh up their value. That's more complicated, but I guess the way I put it is, if you take two equal people and have to choose which one to save, if one person has, killed a lot of people and one person hasn't, I kind of know which one I would try to save. So I have a hard time saying that all value is equal. We're on a tangent here, but the point is, this is the experience you can kind of get from this game, where you draw a depth card, you answer out loud, and then you go through answering that question. Then you draw a trait card and you read that out loud, and then you go ahead and you answer the trait about yourself. So for example, over here, this example is how creative you find yourself to be. And then you answer with your own answer, but then other players answer as well with their answer. So you might say, I'm a 2 out of 10 as far as how creative I think I am. And others might say that you're a 5 out of 10. Or it might be 5 out of 5. I don't know their scale over here. Then you reveal the votes, and then again, that engenders more of a conversation. Oh, I don't think I'm that creative because of X, Y, and Z. I think you are creative because of this, that, and the other. And so you have this aspect of a prompt that turns into a conversation. You have this weighing up of yourself versus having others weigh up you, which again, it could be a fascinating thing. Could be demoralizing, could be very moralizing, depends on the group of people you're playing it with, but ultimately it lends itself to that kind of, not really party experience, but an experiential game that does appeal to me, if not for the AI art aspect. And without getting too heavily into it, I've talked about AI art in the channel in the past. For me, AI art is more of a, there's different aspects to AI art. There's the general conversation, and then my personal interest. And my personal interest in this is none, because this is the kind of AI art that screams out loud that it's AI art. And I find that when I can't tell if it's AI art, it's a whole different conversation as far as my ability to immerse myself in the game. When the whole thing screams AI art, I just can't immerse myself. I can't get past the fact that the entire thing feels machine generated, and this entire thing does feel machine generated. And they do cover this in their use of AI. All the art is created with Midjourney. And so my own 2 cents is I'm actually kind of interested in the game itself, and then the use of AI art in a way that makes it so obviously clear that it's AI art definitely made me far less interested in this game in its current form. As far as the pledge levels of here, we have $34 for the standard edition of the game, and then we have $34 for the VIP special edition, giving you a few extras over there. I believe you get the Mini Shadow expansion pack. For $59, you get the Know Thyself fully expanded with all the expansion packs, and then the Deluxe Collection edition, giving you all the various extras over here, and then we get into more copies of the game in general. As far as should you back or should you not will hold its value, once again, we're kind of in the, again, it's a weird week. We don't actually have a lot of typical crowdfunding campaigns to go over. This is more into the mass market aspect. These things generally don't do a great job holding the value. They've definitely managed to pull in enough of an audience, which is kudos to them to do so. I don't think this is likely to hold its value on the secondhand market. Usually mass market stuff doesn't, unless there's a particular draw to it. For example, things like the Unstable Unicorns, Remy Batty, his campaigns often can hold the value because of the exclusive stuff they have and the incredible following that he has. But for the most part, this kind of mass market stuff generally doesn't hold its value if you find it's not a game for you. And then moving on from there, we have Khlor. I think it's Khlor, but it might be Color. I don't entirely know. Coming to you from Alvaro I'm not going to try to pronounce it, I apologize. Showing you from their 4th campaign or whatnot, 182 backers, $9,383 raised, 24 days to go. This is a game of placing your polyomino piece onto the board in order to go ahead and collect demons, and then subsequently lay eggs as you try to gather these tiles, being mindful of the tiles you're going to uncover as you go, as you try to get your eggs onto the board with the knowledge that the most eggs of your color, more eggs equals more points, so you're trying to go ahead and get to capture tiles and lay eggs, all while utilizing your polyomino tiles on the shared board space. That's the basic idea of the game. You check out the video for more information, but that's the core idea. The pledge levels over here for the game, let's go ahead and scroll down. Pledge level is going to be €35 for the standard edition, and the deluxe edition is going to run €50 if you want the deluxe little extra bits and all of that, and the cooler version of the game. And they have Make 100 exclusive goodies edition as well, with only 100 copies available. Shipping is going to run you around, I believe if you click through the shipping calculator, I believe it's €15 to the US if I'm not mistaken, bringing your, again, initial price point for the core box of the game is going to run you €35 to €50, or the deluxe edition from €50 to €65, bumping up that price point accordingly. As far as should you back or should you not, will it hold its value? Game looks nice and charming. Game looks on a little on the lighter end, but it does have a very colorful vibe. Looks very charming. Looks very compelling. But in general, smaller box games, especially with the shipping price. Again, if you're looking at a €35 game with the shipping bumping it to 50, that's just a big bump for the game for a smaller box game. These typically have a harder time holding the value on the secondhand market. Again, 182 backers is good, but it's not a ton of demand. So if you find it's not a game for you, it may well be one that's not going to hold its value down the road. And that's kind of all the campaigns we have today. I said we have 8 campaigns. We've gone through 8 campaigns. It is a short week, which does bring us to the picks of the week. The game that I think is most likely to hold its value, and the game that I think is my personal interest pick of the week. And usually basically, short version here is I'm going to skip the pick of the week for the game that is most likely to hold its value, because I'm not quite confident anything we've covered today is likely to hold its value. The game that I think is closest is Hearts of Iron from Steamforged Games. Again, if you sell it initially, generally this is the most likely to hold its value, but it's not quite confident. I'm not quite confident here. I think everything here is a bit of a risk as far as holding its value goes and making sense to get on crowdfunding versus waiting down the road. But I will say, as far as my personal interest pick of the week goes, Hearts of Iron, the board game, definitely does win my personal interest pick of the week. I had a lot of fun playing this one. The biggest thing that holds it back for me is the theme, which is, nothing you can do about that. This is tied to the video game, so the theme is intrinsically tied over here. I'm just not into like modern war style games. I like my fantasy. I like the same exact game with a bunch of Greek gods and mythos and all of that. But overall, the game experience itself was very enjoyable, giving you a solid area control game with a tightly controlled enough game time that it doesn't turn into a forever experience, but gives you a lot of strategic depth along the way. And that's going to be my pick of the week. My personal interest pick of the week is Hearts of Iron, the board game from Steamforged Games. As far as campaigns coming up next week, we have several. We have Aventuria, the board game, is going to be launching tomorrow over here. It's going to be launching tomorrow in 2 days. Launching soon. It's launching soon. Aventuria, the board game, is going to be launching soon from Elisa Spill. This is going to be a cooperative, working together kind of game as far as choosing your hero, grabbing a deck, and then wandering off to fight the various baddies. And then we also have over here Twinkle Twinkle, Merchants of Andromeda, and Waddle, a series of games coming to you from Allplay, launching on Tuesday as well. And that's basically it. Until next time, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one. Why did the blind miner fall into the hole? He didn't see that well.